This is a full story. Puppy wishes you all a happy and enjoyable story. When my boyfriend and I attended a Halloween event, we encountered an accident. At the moment I was pushed down, he let go of my hand and protected his white Moonlight, my stepsister. He said, "She's pregnant." I had to act in the moment, but he didn't know that I was pregnant too. Later, I left gracefully, letting them be together. But he refused to let go of my hand, begging, "Hailey, please don't go. I'll do anything." I smiled faintly. Go to hell and apologize to the child. Pain. Everything hurts. Staring at the people coming and going in the hospital room, I took a while to realize that I was not dead. I had survived the disaster. The room was filled with survivors from the accident. With not enough beds, many had to lie on stretchers or sit in chairs. The air was filled with groans of agony. It was just like when we were crushed together by the crowd, surrounded by dying people's final screams. Trembling in fear, I wrapped myself in a blanket. "Excuse me, could you give up the bed for her? She's pregnant and her condition is very unstable." A man stood beside my bed, speaking to me. The familiar voice made me freeze. I lifted the blanket and clearly saw him carefully supporting a flushed woman. When Tony saw me, his expression changed. "Hailey, how did you end up here? Are you alright?" He didn't notice my bruised body, every movement sending sharp pain through me, and he grabbed my hand so tightly that it made me gasp. He quickly loosened his grip and apologized. "Sorry, I didn't realize you were so badly injured." I found it amusing that he dared to ask why I was so hurt while Serena was unharmed. Because in the chaos, when she was falling, she pushed me aside, and at the moment I was pushed down, he let go of my hand and held Serena. So I was crushed under a wall of people, unable to breathe. Surrounded by screams and cries, I was suffocating under the weight, with blood from a boy behind me spilling all over me. A girl beside me kept crying until her voice weakened and eventually stopped. I went from struggling to accepting death in despair. When I lost consciousness, I really felt I couldn't hold on any longer. I don't know how I survived. Just thinking about being in that pile of bodies makes me feel cold all over. If not for sheer luck, I would be a corpse now. And Serena, in his arms, completely unharmed. He even compassionately sought a bed for her, so considerate. I looked at him in silence. He was a bit uneasy under my gaze, finally apologizing softly. "Hailey, at that time, it was because Serena was pregnant. With so many people, it was unsafe." I didn't think much about it. Pregnant? I looked at Serena's flat stomach and frowned slightly. Could that child be? Tony explained quietly, "Her fiancé passed away, and there's no one to take care of her." Don't misunderstand. "So, you insisted on going to this Halloween parade for her?" Tony usually avoided crowds. In previous years, when I wanted him to go with me, he refused. Yet this year, he was unusually keen. So even though I wasn't feeling well, I forced myself to go with him, only to find that he didn't care whether I went or not. Tony was stunned for a moment, then explained, "No, I didn't say anything." I felt too miserable to argue further. Tony knew I was upset and didn't press the issue. Serena, however, started acting up, suddenly holding her stomach and swaying. Tony quickly supported her. "What's wrong?" Serena pretended to be uncomfortable. "I'm feeling a bit unwell." Tony helped her sit down and asked around for a bed swap, but was refused. He finally came back and awkwardly looked at me. "Hailey, are you feeling better? Do you want to get up and get some fresh air?" Fresh air. With my condition, I could barely stand. Did he want me to stand up or just want me to die? I looked at him coldly, but before I could speak, Serena had already grasped his shirt's corner, sympathetically saying, "It's okay, I'll just sit here. She's still angry, don't bother her." Tony frowned, stopped trying to persuade me, and went outside. After a while, he came back, having managed to arrange a bed for Serena and now helping her to leave. "Hailey, I'm taking her to another hospital for an examination. I'll be back soon. Call me if you need anything." Before leaving, he gently held my hand, trying to soothe me. Again. Every time, he leaves me alone, making me wait for him. But why? Why? He promised me a birthday celebration, but left home because of a sick post from her. When it rained and he didn't answer his phone, I came home wet only to find he had gone to pick up Serena. Even though I'm his girlfriend, I have to watch him do boyfriend things for another woman as if he were her boyfriend? Can't you stay? I refuse to be the obedient one waiting for him to return. "Hailey, there aren't enough doctors here. I have to take her to another hospital. It's too chaotic outside. I can't leave her alone." So, she can't be alone, so every time I must be alone? I gritted my teeth and asked, "Can't you see how badly I'm hurt? Should I die alone too?" "Don't say such things." Talk of death is unacceptable. His face showed a hint of anxiety and he spoke sternly. My eyes reddened, but I almost died. You won't die. There won't be such things anymore. Tony held my hand. I'll be back soon. Be good. He said he would return soon, but by midnight, I woke up from a high fever, vomiting continuously. When I tried to call for help, he still wasn't there. Enduring the pain all over my body, I weakly reached for the emergency call button, but everything was blurry and my throat was too hoarse to make a sound. The sounds of labored breathing filled my ears. Every movement was slow and painful. Finally, I seemed to touch the wall, and as I crawled forward, I suddenly fainted and fell hard onto the floor. My lower abdomen clenched painfully, and I vomited. I wanted to cry from the discomfort, wondering why no one was by my side. He lied to me. I was always the one left behind. My noise finally attracted someone's attention, and a kind person called for a doctor. The pain was overwhelming, as if a knife was being driven into my abdomen. So painful, I couldn't even cry. I was so scared. Was I going to die? I didn't want to. I didn't want to die alone here. Silly girl, don't cry. You're not going to die. The doctor will save you. Perhaps because I cried so terribly, a female doctor gently wiped away my tears and comforted me. I sobbed, losing consciousness amidst the pain. I didn't know I was pregnant until the doctor told me I had miscarried. Having escaped death and lost blood from the miscarriage, my body was too weak. The female doctor comforted me with pity. You're still young. Take care of yourself and don't be too upset. I looked at her kind face and forced a smile. Thank you, doctor. I'm not upset. I won't be upset anymore. From now on, all the sadness and pain should be his. It was me who pursued him. He was the heartthrob of our department and was too eye-catching. Just a glimpse in the classroom made me understand what it meant to fall in love at first sight. Almost obsessively, I fell for him, being his devoted fan for 3 years. Until near graduation, someone couldn't stand it and told me Tony had a white moonlight in his heart, advising me to stop wasting my time. I cried endlessly, and my friends took me to a gathering with a group of handsome guys, making me drunk for the first time in my life. When my friends dragged me back to the dorm, Tony was standing downstairs. He looked displeased. Why didn't you come to find me? Where did you go? Why are you so drunk? I wiped my tears with a smile. To mourn my dead first love. Did you curse me? He frowned and pulled me over. I'm not dead yet. Who allowed you to stray? And so, we got together in a muddled manner, but he never said he liked me. Even when I occasionally felt he didn't love me as much, I comforted myself, thinking he would eventually see my good qualities and forget the person in his heart. But after Serena returned, the changes in him were evident. I should have given up, but how could I still have hope? Maybe the child knew they wouldn't be blessed in this world, so they chose to leave. At 25, I crashed into Tony's wall. I didn't die. The child took my place. The number of people in the hospital room kept increasing as the injured patients' families arrived one after another. Only in front of my bed, it remained cold and desolate. I am definitely not a fragile person, but after several near-death experiences, I really don't want to be alone here. I mustered the courage to call my mom, whom I hadn't been in touch with for a long time. Hello, what's up? She seemed a bit surprised. On the other end of the phone, hearing that familiar voice, my heart sank instantly. Mom, did you come to Cydia too? Yes, we saw the news and remembered Serena said she was going to the event. We were so scared, so your uncle and I rushed over here overnight. My mom, my own mother, would rush over because she was worried about my stepfather's daughter, but hadn't even asked about my safety with a single call. I choked up. Mom, I also attended the event. I'm in the hospital. You got hurt? I could detect her displeasure, but it was just displeasure. Didn't I tell you not to crowd into places with lots of people? I don't understand why you young people always want to join the crowd. I asked her through my tears. Can you come and see me? Which hospital are you in? I told her the address and then kept my eyes open, waiting until midnight. She didn't come, and Tony didn't return either. Serena's father, my boyfriend, were already there. Why is it that even my own mother couldn't be the chosen one for me? Is it because I'm so inadequate that I'm always the one being abandoned? In this city, without my relatives, it was my friends who came to take care of me. At that time, I hadn't eaten for a day and a night, weak but unable to eat anything. My friend made some light soup and fed me bit by bit. Tony arrived late carrying a packed soup box. Hailey, are you feeling better? I brought you a pork chop bun. Your boyfriend is really responsible. My friend said with a dark face. I came all the way from another city, and you, with your leisurely pace, arrived so quickly? Last night, a friend was unwell. She couldn't manage alone, so I stayed with her for the night. Alone? He didn't know that I had called my mom yesterday, and my mom, knowing full well that he was my boyfriend, hadn't mentioned it at all. Oh, so you're really a great person. You ignore your injured girlfriend and take care of someone else? Was that person's leg broken? Their arm fractured? Or did they end up in the ICU? My friend had a fiery temper and didn't give him any face. Tony, embarrassed, served a bowl of soup to make amends. The smell made me want to vomit. Are you out of your mind? Don't you know Hailey hates pork chop buns the most? My friend exploded. Tony was left speechless. He didn't realize that he never paid attention to my preferences. This soup was probably brought as an afterthought when he got Serena's. The difference between love and indifference is so obvious. I should have seen it earlier, instead of letting myself get hurt to this extent. That day, when my friend was not around, I had a serious talk with Tony about breaking up. His face darkened immediately. Don't say things out of spite. Really? I've thought about it carefully. It was always me pushing for this relationship, now I'm letting go. I don't agree. Hailey, are you still angry because I wasn't with you at that time? It's just that we're friends. Her fiancé was my friend, and he passed away. I should help take care of her. Yes, I believe that, but it has nothing to do with me anymore. I seemed calmer than I expected. When I cared about him, I would be anxious and tortured for him. But when I no longer cared, it was just indifferent. Tony, I want to break up with you. My friend has already gone to pack my things from the house. I will move to another place after I'm discharged. Our relationship ends today, and from now on, we are strangers. Why? He held my hand tightly, looking both angry and puzzled, as if he couldn't understand why I would want to break up over such a trivial matter. Why are you angry? Is it really that important? Just because I helped a pregnant woman and didn't get to hold you back at that time? But you weren't even hurt. Why are you still so resentful? Resentful? I laughed angrily. Yes, it's because I'm not magnanimous enough to stand in front of Serena and take the hit when danger approached. As long as I have a breath left, I should give way to her, right? That's not what I meant. He still wanted to say more, but I closed my eyes. I have a headache. You can leave. He didn't leave, but stayed silently by the bedside while I kept my eyes closed, out of sight and out of mind. When my friend came back, with a dark face, he had tried to leave several times. Tony still kept watching me, hoping I would soften and keep him. I said nothing, and he still refused to leave. My friend was getting upset, but I just smiled and quietly took a photo when he wasn't paying attention and posted it online. Only Serena could see it, and sure enough, not long after, Tony's phone rang. He went out to take the call and never came back. You see, I always overestimated his feelings for me and underestimated his obsession with Serena. That night, we arranged for a transfer. This time, it was a complete goodbye. The Stampede incident had attracted a lot of attention online. As long as I held my phone, I could see some videos and inquiries from colleagues and friends, making me relive that nightmarish day. However, I didn't expect to discover some shocking truths in a video I happened to see. At the time of the incident, I felt someone pushed me, but there were so many people and it was so crowded. I thought it was unintentional. But in the video, I clearly saw that it was Serena standing right behind me. At that moment, although the crowd was packed, no one had fallen, and everything was still under control. Until she deliberately reached out and pushed me, causing me to fall and hit the person in front of me, and suddenly, like a domino effect, everyone toppled over and the scene gradually went out of control. At that time, Serena was standing by the wall, and Tony had quickly protected her, so they were both hardly injured. What is it like to feel chilled to the bone? Her actions made me feel cold and terrified. I knew Serena, and I had always been at odds. When her dad brought her to live with us, we didn't get along from the start. She thought I looked down on her, and I thought she was too good at pretending to be pitiful and scheming, so I didn't want to be friends with her. I originally had a mother, but then she was taken away by her, so she had both parents while I was left with nothing. And it wasn't enough to just take my mom, she also wanted to take my friends. From childhood to now, whenever someone was close to me, she had to insert herself. But now, she even wanted to take my life, even if it meant bringing so many others into the accident with her. How dare she? My phone rang for a long time, but I didn't answer. These days, Tony had been looking for me and calling several times a day. He sent messages asking where I was, but I didn't reply. Today, unexpectedly, my mom's call came. Where have you been? In the hospital. What hospital? Did you and Tony have a fight? He called me asking about you, saying you were missing. Her tone was very serious. You need to change your temper. How can you go missing every time you have an argument? I admitted, with a bit of unfortunate hope, that she didn't ask, "How are you?" Instead, it was all criticism towards me. It's not a fight. We broke up. I have no obligation to tell him. A fight? Over Serena? I took a deep breath, knowing what she was going to say. Even though you're not biological sisters, you grew up together. You are the elder sister. Why can't you be a little more magnanimous? Serena knows you were upset because of her and Tony's fight. Her fiancé passed away recently, and she's pregnant and alone. You don't care for her and act like this. Isn't it enough to have you all? I interrupted coldly. Do I need to be battered and bruised and then go around taking care of her? What do you mean by being so sarcastic? Hailey, How did you become like this? I hung up the phone and turned it off completely. Why did I become like this? Don't you all know? Each of you has contributed to it. Just because I retorted a bit, you can't handle it? So, will you be able to endure the future days of unbearable suffering? I returned to the office 20 days later. Everyone knew about my accident and inquired about my condition with concern. I glanced around and asked, "Where's Serena?" She didn't come. She took a long-term sick leave. Apparently, she had an accident just like you. Back then, I worked tirelessly to climb to the position of general manager, while Serena, with no education and unwilling to work hard, remained unemployed for years. Seeing my success, she had my mom act as a mediator for her. In the end, I made her join the company on the condition of signing a 10-year contract. But even after she joined, she remained idle and did not want to work, using my name to flaunt around the company. After I found out and scolded her, she didn't learn her lesson, but went to complain to my mom. I used to make concessions out of consideration, but now I had no expectations left for them. While I was still recovering, I contacted HR to organize Serena's previous unexcused absences and disciplinary violations, and drafted a plan for handling them. I signed the document, "Go and notify her to handle her resignation." Serena's phone call came soon after. I didn't answer, and then came calls from my mom and stepfather. Knowing what they wanted to say, I didn't pick up. Before long, they arrived at the company. My mom and stepfather came, but Serena was nowhere to be seen. HR couldn't stop them and came to find me awkwardly. "There's someone claiming to be your mother who wants to see you and won't leave no matter how we persuade her." I hadn't seen her for 6 months. When I was injured in the hospital, she didn't come. When I went through a breakup, she didn't show up. Yet, now that I was dismissing Serena, she showed up at my door. "Did you sign off on Serena's dismissal?" "Yes." "How long are you going to hold a grudge against your sister over such a small matter?" "Hailey, you've gone too far this time. I'm just following the rules. Look at how many times she violated company policy since joining. If she were allowed to stay, how would the other dedicated employees feel?" I placed the materials prepared by HR in front of them. Besides, she wasn't even qualified to be here. Our company has plenty of Ivy League talents, and at the very least, she should have a bachelor's degree. Does she deserve to be here? How can you say that? Why? Because she's your sister. You shouldn't treat her this way. Sister? I'm Hailey, the child of Father Henry, and she's Serena, the child of Sam. We're not related by blood, and emotionally, with what she's done, she's even less deserving. What kind of sister is she? This was the first time I had firmly rejected her in front of her. She clearly found it hard to accept, her eyes turning red with anger. When she slapped me, she used all her strength. It made my head spin a bit and my cheek quickly swelled up, burning with pain. "Don't hit her, don't hit her." My stepfather, who had been silent, finally spoke up and stopped her, pulling her aside. "Calm down, why hit the child?" "I'm sorry, Hailey, your mom is just too angry. Don't take it to heart." I covered my throbbing face, but what hurt more was my heart. I turned to call security to come and remove them, but the door was suddenly pushed open. My direct supervisor, Bame, stood in the doorway. Seeing my swollen face, he frowned and immediately had the security team escort my mom and stepfather out. After Bame gave me a look, he closed the door. I held my hot, swollen face, gritting my teeth and forcing back the mist in my eyes. Don't cry, don't cry. It's fine, I don't care." I felt a bit embarrassed. The family drama was quite unpleasant. Sitting opposite Bame, I waited silently for his criticism. "During Halloween, you were injured in City A? Have you recovered?" Why the sudden concern?" I hurriedly replied, "Yes, I'm fine now." "You look rather down." "I won't affect my work." Bame grunted, "Am I a pork chop bun? I didn't ask about your work. I'm your boss. You generate profit for me, and if you're in trouble, I'll help you resolve it." Now I understood and felt relieved. It wasn't just about moving on. I will take care of my personal issues and ensure they don't affect the company. Previously, due to my personal reasons, there were negative impacts, but now I want to clean things up and will definitely handle it well. I hope you can give me some time. Okay. With the big boss's promise, I had no more reservations. The company had many sharp minds. Today's events would spread quickly, and everyone would act on it. Serena had offended too many people in the company. Now there was an opportunity to bring her down. Why let it pass? I received a dozen complaint letters in one day with various issues, the most serious being that Serena had falsified invoices to defraud the company of reimbursement money. Falsifying invoices for reimbursement is considered fraud, and if the amount reaches a certain level, it constitutes a criminal offense. In the less than a year she was on the job, the amount she reached was significant. If the company pursued it, she'd end up in serious trouble. I had legal sent her a notice. She would probably soon find out this bad news. Since I hadn't fully recovered, I didn't work overtime and left on time, only to run into Tony. Ms. Fong, this person is looking for you and won't leave even after being stopped by us. He's been waiting all afternoon. The security guard explained that BAME had specifically instructed them not to let outsiders in without permission. Tony approached, looking anxious and aggrieved. Hailey, why haven't you answered my calls? Where have you been these days? What happened to your face? He looked a bit haggard, with dark circles under his eyes. Why are you at work? Have you recovered? Before he rushed over, I took a step back. My actions and distant gaze clearly hurt him, and he halted his steps. Hailey, are you still angry? Come home with me, let me take care of you. His doe eyes seemed full of affection for everyone, but had it not been for life and death revealing the truth, how long would I continue to deceive myself? No need, we've broken up. Besides, if your heart isn't with me, why force yourself? It's not as you think. I'm completely innocent with Serena. If you're unhappy, I'll distance myself from her in the future. Can't you stop being stubborn? I smiled helplessly. You still think I'm being stubborn. You really don't know me at all. Seeing me leaving, he finally panicked and followed. Hailey, what do you want me to do? Serena said you want to fire her? Oh, she complained to you again? So, in the end, you're here because of her? No, I'm worried about you. Thank you, but you don't need to. You should worry about Serena and yourself instead. I closed the car door and drove away. It's been over 20 days since then, but my body still hasn't fully recovered. As soon as I got home, I felt completely exhausted. I managed to prepare some food and was just about to rest when the banging on the door began. These days were destined to be restless. Seeing Serena and her parents through the peephole, I called the neighborhood security and asked them to remove them. Come out, sis. What's this lawsuit about? Are you trying to ruin me? Sis, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have let your boyfriend take care of me. It's all my fault. Can't you be a bit kinder to me? I had already blocked their contact information, and now they were directly coming to my door to play the victim. When the security came to escort them away, they refused to leave. I saw my mom assertively saying, "This is my daughter's place. On what grounds are you kicking us out?" The security guard called to verify, and I told him directly, "I don't know them. Don't let them harass me. If they don't leave, call the police." I hung up the phone, not giving them a chance to complain about me to the security. They made such a commotion that I hardly slept that night. The next day at work, I indeed saw them again. They were waiting at the company entrance, trying to make me look bad. Today, the number of security guards was doubled, surrounding the three of them with one specifically filming with a camera. Hailey, don't avoid us. Are you trying to drive your parents and sister to death? I walked over and calmly looked at them. Serena can join the company, but you two are not employees and cannot enter. What do you mean you two? I'm your mother. I touched my still swollen cheek and smiled. Are you? You're Serena's mother, not mine. You? She looked shocked and angry. I just smiled. I suggest you fix your attitude if you want to resolve this. Yesterday, she only needed to handle her resignation. Since you weren't willing, today we need to discuss compensation and even potential imprisonment. If you still want to slap me today, I can't guarantee you won't be begging me tomorrow. They finally quieted down, and Serena obediently followed me into the company. She wiped her tears and tried to make a scene at the company, but everyone just watched as if it were a show. No one thought she was wronged. I really spent this money. I didn't submit fake invoices. They were all signed by the team leader. Really? Should I submit this to the judicial authorities to verify whose handwriting it is? I placed the evidence in front of her. With red eyes, she complained, "This isn't a lot of money. I saw everyone doing it, so I thought." Everyone? Who are you talking about? She looked up and saw her colleagues glaring at her. Even in her plight, she still tried to drag others down with her, as if she hadn't offended enough people already. So, she began to cry. My stomach hurt so much. But no one here was buying it. Sis, if you want to kick me out, I'll just resign. Please let me go. Don't make things difficult for me anymore. Do you really want to make everyone turn against you? If you really sue me, Mom won't forgive you. Is there anything else you can use to threaten me? When I no longer cared, the so-called emotional blackmail was simply insignificant. Serena was speechless, staring at me in disbelief as if she couldn't understand why I seemed to have suddenly changed. The places she used to control me were now unimportant. BAME had given me full authority to handle Serena's situation as long as it didn't affect the company's interests. So now, I was the one in control. Serena was practically dragged out. She continued crying and claiming I framed her, but she had run out of tricks and could only do so much. But for me, the matter wasn't over. The previous video only showed Serena standing behind me, and her pushing action was too subtle. Even if I said I felt someone pushing me at the time, it wasn't very convincing. So, during these days, I worked with friends to search for videos taken by tourists on that day. After checking various angles, we contacted local businesses to find a clear video of Serena pushing me. We used big data to filter out accounts that hadn't been on-site and collected and reviewed all relevant videos published online. These past 20 days, I hadn't had a moment of rest. I had to force myself to watch the nightmarish videos. I'm truly grateful to my friends for fighting alongside me to find this crucial video. The blogger was a cozer. Due to the large crowd, they used a drone, and it happened to be positioned above us, clearly capturing Serena's pushing action. Even after I fell, she pretended to help me while pushing people forward until Tony had to pull her against the wall. She really wanted me dead, but I survived, so now, it was her who would face the consequences. Recently, I moved into a friend's place, not only due to Serena and her family's harassment, but also Tony's inexplicable entanglement. I didn't quite understand why. When he was with me, he was interested in someone else, but after we broke up, he became so sentimental, as if I was indispensable. It was ridiculous. Is it really true that what one can't have is the most valuable? Since they couldn't wait for me at my residence, they became regulars downstairs at the company. My boss enjoyed the drama and kindly opened a green channel for me, allowing me to enter and exit through the company's side door. By the next day, they no longer showed up. Apparently, Bame personally dealt with them. Tony left red-faced and dejected, disappearing without a trace. Serena and her family left looking defeated and red-eyed. Indeed, the big boss was adept at dealing with such matters, but they probably didn't have the energy to come back, because their world was collapsing. The video of the trampling incident hit the trending searches. Serena's face and actions were magnified and highlighted. It sparked outrage. The accident itself was heartbreaking enough, but the fact that someone added fuel to the fire during the incident was unforgivable, no matter the reason. Her push nearly cost many lives. Serena's identity was quickly exposed, and many people tagged the official accounts. In fact, while we were exposing the video online, we had already reported it to the authorities. Serena was likely already being questioned. As the direct victim of her push, I would also be suing her personally. After I publicly announced my decision to sue, other victims and their families also decided to file complaints. In a single night, Serena faced countless lawsuits. Serena's family was in a state of panic, frantically searching for lawyers and connections, but the situation was too big for anyone to save her. My mom, somehow finding out, kept harassing my friends. I had no choice but to meet her. This time, she wasn't arrogant anymore. She looked exhausted and pitiful, crying when she saw me. "Hailey, why are you doing this to me? What did I do wrong to you?" "Mom, I also want to know. What did I do to make you dislike me? Clearly, I'm your biological daughter, yet you treat Serena better than me?" She was taken aback by my stare and awkwardly said, "How could I not like you? I treat you both the same. Is it because I look like Dad? When you divorced him, you hated him so much, taking me away and not letting me see him. Later, as I resembled Dad more, your attitude towards me became colder. I don't not understand, but I don't want to understand. Is it my fault? Shouldn't I look like Dad? But does looking like Dad make me not her daughter?" I saw unwillingness in her eyes. I didn't know whom she was seeing through me. Her voice was hoarse. "It's not just about looking like him. It's your temper. Even though you were raised by me, why is your arrogance exactly like his? You also look down on me just like he did, right?" I shook my head and said, "I once regarded you as my only support, but you pushed me away, so I no longer need it. If you want to be Serena's mom, then go ahead. But don't think you can use your maternal identity to coerce me into fulfilling your demands." I stood up and threw my final words at her. "If you don't want me, then I don't want you either." She stared blankly, her eyes finally reddening. I thought that after Serena's incident, Tony would have no time to harass me anymore, but to my surprise, I ran into him again downstairs at the company. "Sorry, Hailey, I'm so sorry. I saw the video. I didn't know it was her who pushed you. I was deceived by her. Please forgive me. I'll never have anything to do with her again." He grabbed my hand, apologizing repeatedly. "Let go. No, Hailey, don't reject me. Please. I really only like you. I know I messed up before, but I'll make it up to you." I was about to call security when Tony was suddenly kicked down by someone. Bame stood with his hands on his hips, looking at Tony with suspicion. She said to let go. "Didn't you hear? If you keep harassing her, I'll call the police and have you taken in for questioning." Tony looked at Bame with anger and frustration, then left in a disheveled state. "Thank you, boss." Bame smiled warmly. No need to thank me. Just make sure you meet your targets next quarter. As I watched Tony leave, I muttered under my breath, pigskin. I didn't expect that Bame's intervention would lead to a misunderstanding by Tony. When I returned to my place, he followed me, forcibly broke into the apartment, and started going wild. Why won't you forgive me? Have you fallen for someone else? Is it that man? His name is Bame, isn't it? Are you out of your mind? Let me go, or I'll call the police. He was completely insane. I won't let you be with another man. You're mine. Let's get married, Hailey. Once we have a child, you won't leave me. He tried to tear at my clothes. Before he could kiss me, I used all my strength to slap him. Get away from me. I don't want your child. You're an accomplice. You don't deserve it. He was stunned for a moment, suddenly looking up with confusion. What did you say? Child? What child? Here, there was once a child. I pointed to my abdomen, tears suddenly falling. But he's gone. On Halloween night, when you were with Serena, leaving me alone in the hospital, he was gone, turned into a pool of blood. It hurt so much. Tony. He must have been in pain too, don't you think? Tony was completely frozen, staring at me with wide eyes, unsure of how to react. I took his hand and placed it on my abdomen. Serena is the murderer, and you are the accomplice. You both killed him. He shuddered violently and withdrew his hand. No, how could this be? Why didn't you tell me? Because you don't deserve to know, accomplice. He looked as though he had been struck by lightning. His face turned ashen, and he fled like a zombie. He shouldn't be coming back to find me again. I went to see Bame and voluntarily offered to be transferred to a new project team. The new project team will be stationed away from the city for a long time. Are you sure you want to go? Yes, it was time to say goodbye to this place, at least for now. All right, I'll approve your transfer request. A new city, new work responsibilities quickly occupied most of my time and energy. In the evening, when my friend called, she hesitated before telling me shocking news. Serena had a miscarriage and Tony is in jail. Because Serena was pregnant, she was given a 1-year suspended sentence before her imprisonment. However, Tony went mad, stormed into her home on the first night she returned, and nearly killed her. Serena ended up in the ICU, saved her life, but was left disfigured and lost her ability to have children. Tony now faced prison time as well. This, friendship through life and death, would both end up in jail. My friend sighed and asked if I plan to return to my old hometown. They are already in prison. It won't affect you anymore. I shook my head. I won't go back. I like it here. I've sold my old house and am planning to buy a new one here. Mom had tried to contact me again, wanting to make amends, but I had completely severed ties with the past. I no longer needed it. Late love and deep feelings. Let those who want them have them. The end. If you like Puppy's story, please follow and like it. Updated every morning at 9 a.m.